Welcome to Open School of Business. My name is Anara Murzakova, and today I'm very happy to introduce you to this amazing woman. She's also from Kazakhstan. Her name is Nadya Zhexembayeva. Nadya helps people and organizations turn change into an opportunity. Called the Reinvention Guru by Ventures magazine and the Queen of Reinvention by TEDx Novossiysk, Dr. Nadya Zhexembayeva is a business owner, educator, speaker, and author specializing in reinvention. Nadya, hello. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm wonderful and I am really happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I would like to start off with a very challenging question right away because a lot of our audiences are business owners. So I know you are a business owner of the We Exist agency, and it's been already many years since you started it, but we would like to hear about the challenges of starting up a business and growing it to the level that you have now.
It's a wonderful question. So I'm a business owner by accident. I am a recovering academic. Just like a recovering alcoholic, you never really recover. You are an addicted person.
Well, that's nice. Then people can call you Dr. Zhexembayeva.
Oh, very much
It's a
so.
really good benefit too.
I teach to this day, and of course I write and do research. I was a Coca-Cola chaired professor for many years. And while I was teaching in executive education, I had one CEO who was sitting in my class and he says, everything you say is very, very compelling. I almost believe you. The problem is you've never worked in business. So in 2007, my husband and I started a company. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a business card. We just had a first client from that class who said they need help with surviving in extreme crisis, surviving turbulent times and disruption. And then we were passed on to the next CEO, the next business owner, to the next business owner. And until 2015, we had no business cards and we had no websites or anything else. Just there was a phone and email and they would reach out to us. And in 2014, we got to the time that we couldn't accept any more clients. We had a network of about 100 plus experts that we would pull in contracts for consulting, and we still couldn't accept more. So this idea of an online platform where we share methodology, in metaphoric speak, it would be teaching people how to fish instead of fishing for them. That's how the Reinvention Officer was born. So that's my experience. The challenges are the same everyone experiences. First, you don't grow at all. First, you don't have any revenues, just expenses. And then you hit the first moment of growth and you cannot manage it with the amount of people you have. It's a very strong tension. So first you're in this idea of how can I optimize my expenses because I have no revenues, and then revenues show up and suddenly you're overstretched and overburdened. So this dance between too little revenues, too much expenses, and too much revenues, but not enough people, that all has been outdanced for many years.
Right. And I think a lot of people hear that story many times. But the success of the story, I think, lies in the fact that you've been growing through word of mouth from one recommendation to another. Can you describe some of these early projects you did for some of the companies?
Sure. We specialize on things that are quite intense. So I will not name companies that I'm saying right now, but I'm happy to share those that are publicly available. You can read in my bio. But we would work with companies that are in significant distress. One company I can share, it's a publicly known story, is Hypo Alpe Adria. It was a quite big regional bank in Europe, still exists, thankfully. And because of the last crisis, it went into bankruptcy and the Austrian government was forced to buy it out, to bail it out. They purchased it for €1 and the company had to be restructured and reinvented. And we were partners on that project. And I still remember the days we would work with some country managers. Bulgaria comes to mind in particular, where we knew that we cannot save this particular branch, not even branch, this country, this bank office, particular country in this bank office, we cannot, there will be never IPADE Bulgaria because it's simply financially not viable. So often it's very painful projects, but then I also have very happy projects. We've done work with L'Oreal Group on reinventing their leadership practices around sustainability with their top 100 most prominent, including the entire C-suite. We've done projects with Coca-Cola. As I said, I worked a lot with Coca-Cola as a chaired professor. We've done projects with mining and metals, with construction materials such as Knauf Insulations, worked with them many times across many different projects. So I'm happy that it's sometimes product reinvention, sometimes it's process reinvention, sometimes it's business model reinvention, sometimes it's leadership reinvention, and sometimes it's a mix. And that makes it exciting.
Yes. And when you engage with a company, do they know what they want in advance, or you have to go in and analyze and see what kind of reinvention you actually suggest?
We always start with the audit, even if the company thinks they know what they want.
Right.
Most of the time, something quite different or fundamentally different at the end. I am a student of emergent strategy. I truly believe that today, with our speed of change and uncertainty, we have to allow our strategies to emerge. So that is the practice we agree on with our clients as well, that we are agreeing that everything will be pivoting and everything will be changing and the actual path will emerge as we go.
Right. I am very excited today because you're from academia and you have this new Chief Reinvention Officer certification kind of product that your agency is looking into. I'm wondering, like, you can give us, I think, like a case study of what it means to be the Chief Reinvention Officer, first of all, and then maybe you can show us a very simple example. For example, like a Coca-Cola is a very nice example. Everyone knows the brand, the product. What kind of reinvention did they need?
Sure.
And what kind of reinvention they got at the end?
Sure. So the reason we went back to education is because, as I said, we came to the point where we recognize that there is a lot of need on the market and there's no professionals who can fulfill that need. Reinvention is not rocket science. It really is not. I always say that, and my students all laugh at me. It is an integrative discipline. So the only thing that makes it different is that you cannot just be a strategy and foresight professional. You cannot be just design thinking, innovation, or creativity professional. You cannot just be project management, change management, or organizational development professional. You need to integrate across all of these parts. And unfortunately, what happens is we tend to love our specialty and we tend to specialize quite narrowly. So change management people, in my experience, generally speaking, don't like money and are not super engaged in economic models. And economic models people, strategy, foresight, forecasting people, generally don't like all this project management plus soft communication stuff. That's all crap in their book. So all these different pieces become very disintegrated, and therefore strategy people are kind of detached from real life and the groundwork, front workers, and the work on the ground sometimes lacks love affair with the business part of things, with business modeling. So that's what reinvention is about. It's integrating many of these disciplines. And of course, we developed some tools that do not yet exist on the market that close some gaps that we saw are necessary. Examples of what it means to be a professional in reinvention, and that's where the certificate program comes in. I will give you my 3 students, very different students. Student number 1, Clement Sheshok, is a chief reinvention officer in a wonderful company in Europe. The company is called CISCO. I think I need to check out the latest name. They're across many different disciplines. They're a manufacturing company. They produce a lot of telecom equipment, but now they're also making or supporting some electric stuff inside boats. I don't know enough details, so I need to go and check what they do. And Clement, one was a senior executive, and he also part owner of a business. And he came to study how to turn around his company very quickly, but also how to build a system that allows you to reinvent automatically, so you don't need to wait until the next crisis. And that's
that is very smart to
yeah,
have a system. Yeah,
that's the main issue of reinvention. So reinvention is not a one-time project. That's what I call reinvention 1.0. You have a crisis, you reinvent it, you survived. That is not interesting. Reinvention 2.0, our work is to allow you to build a system that automatically helps you renew your business again and again when the time is right. So Clement essentially worked in a corporation, corporate executive, changed his title, became chief reinvention officer of his company. Completely different story is a story, so Clement is in Slovenia in Europe. Completely different story is a story of Gary Graham in South Africa. Gary was the CEO of his own consulting business, successful, happy consulting business, about 15 partners, and then of course many other people in the support roles. And on about third or fourth day of our third or fourth week of our program, he quit as a CEO. He said, "I'm spending time in the wrong place. I should be the chief reinvention officer of our business. I should give the role of the CEO operationally to somebody younger. And I should think in a more ahead of the game rather than be in a reactive position all the time." And he was one of the people who closed most contracts in a few months right after the program. So it made me very happy, because in South Africa, sometimes it's hard, especially now with COVID-19. And then completely different story that always makes me smile is a story of Jim Merhart here in the US. And Jim is a consultant and coach, but he has a very special focus. He's specializing on reinventing churches, congregations. And that's main specialty. And using our tools in a completely different setting, in a nonprofit setting, he was able to recover what is happening now with a lot of churches, which is churches are dying. There's a massive closing in the churches. So very different applications, same set of tools, same set of principles, and you can work across many different paths. And your second part of the question, what does it look like in places like Coca-Cola? We helped Coca-Cola when they were working on their water brands portfolio, because at that time they were more than 160 different water brands. So how do you think about water differently? In the short term, that's about the brand. But in the long term, we know now, because of plastic pollution, the classic plastic bottle with water is not a viable future business. There's too much pushback against this product. So one, you need to think about plastic against biodegradable packaging, or you need to think about a whole different solution for this problem called hydration, safe and comfortable and convenient hydration. So we gave them tons of support in inventing a whole bunch of directions of what could be a different hydration model, maybe not bottled water at all.
Right. I think I love this idea of the CEOs becoming reinvention officers, because when you are a startup, and in Silicon Valley, you see that a lot. They are very successful because the startup owner, the founders, they're always thinking about how to pivot, how to go for different markets if this one is not working. So it's very dynamic. And then when you're scaling up, it becomes, like you said, disintegrated, because everyone is doing their own thing in different departments.
Very much so.
And it's great to have that system. And I want to continue with that notion, because I want to see what involves in that system. Because in the 70s, we had Deming's quality assurance system, for example. That's very similar. You first, you plan, you check, you do, and then you reiterate. That kind of make sure that the quality stays the same, to make sure you have a business process to follow. Is it similar to that framework?
Yes, very much so. The difference is a combination of the focus of present needs and the future needs. So our six pillars framework, by the name you can judge, has six pillars. Three of them are short-term oriented, short to medium term, and three of them are more medium to long-term oriented, but you cannot drop any one of them, because if you forget one of them, and they're not linear, they are interdependent with each other. So the first one is anticipating change. So you have to figure out how to notice trends long before they show up, and you need to build a system of trend watching if you want to be able to be proactive with change. So anticipating change, designing change, that would be a planning stage in the model that you mentioned, and then implementing change. Those are the short-term acts. And then the revise and rethink act has three elements as well, which is reinvention mindset, reinvention culture, and reinvention ready systems. You can have everything in place, but if your management system, let's say your budgeting system, is still on an annual basis, you will never be adaptive enough for this environment, because your financial system simply doesn't allow you to react and reallocate the resources fast enough. So currently we're looking at reinvention ready systems where budgeting can be completely recalculated at least once a week. So you can pivot very, very quickly, and everyone knows how to adjust and how to move in a different direction. And the current plan is simply failing us.
All right. I am very interested in that financial model part, because a lot of times big corporations, they use heavy software like SAP and others that wouldn't even allow for such kind of calculations. So do you recommend to use something else for that?
So far, every time we worked on similar projects, we actually had to help develop in-house more dynamic systems and then code them in-house, because we couldn't find anything on the market that was nimble enough, that was reflective this new thinking. For longest time, I had the privilege of working with Eurasian Resource Group, which is a very large 80,000 mining and metals company. And you might be familiar with that because they have quite a lot of operations in Kazakhstan, but not only, they also have very active operation in Africa, in 5 countries, in Brazil, and so on. And because this company used to be a publicly traded company, it went private after a while. It had the legacy of publicly traded companies, which is annual budget with 3 adjustments, which are called quarterly forecasts, where you adjust the budget. And of course, the problem is that life doesn't happen on a quarterly basis. Take COVID-19. If you only are able to adjust your budget in 3 months, by the time that adjustment moment comes, you will be dead. So you need to be able to recalculate it much faster. Therefore, you need systems that are much more adaptive. And this company right now has a rolling budget for 18 months forward that can be adjusted weekly.
Oh, that's great. And they have built it in-house for themselves,
In-house.
I'm assuming, right? Yeah. They do have a great IT department. I was one of the consultants. They were the clients. I'm talking about ENRC, right?
Yes. Former name is ENRC, and the new name of the company is ERG. Yeah.
ERG. Okay, great. That's actually brings you, or brings us to Kazakhstan, where we're both originally from. Yes. And I'm very happy to have you. You're the second amazing woman from Kazakhstan on this podcast. The first one was Gia Nurtas, who went from business to directing movies and films. And she actually brought Tomiris, the new movie from Kazakhstan, just recently. It was
amazing movie, by the way.
On Amazon. Yeah, have you seen it already?
I saw the pieces, and also since I have still so many friends in Kazakhstan, I saw reviews. I saw pieces of how this was filmed. I know somebody who knows the main actress, who is actually by profession is not an actress. So it's like the whole perfect reinvention story that makes me very happy.
That is very true. Yes, I think Reinvention is like a brand of Kazakhstan, in my opinion. We reinvent so many times. There is a very famous old poem that the Kazakh is someone who died 1,000 times and he risen 1,000 times. So this is about reinvention.
Very
And
much.
I want to kind of ask you about your story of moving from Kazakhstan to the West, and what kind of professional experience you had prior moving to the West.
Sure. I have a very usual, I think, story for the kids of post-Soviet life, post-Soviet reality, because I started working very early. I started working as a receptionist at an insurance company when I was 13, and then did many other things. One of them, I had the luxury of first studying and then becoming a facilitator and trainer at a young association, young kids association called Association of Young Leaders, which I love to this day. That taught me a lot of leadership skills, a lot of amazing theory, which later during my doctorate research, I learned was actual theory. This was not just pop marketing stuff, which was beautiful. And I moved to US in the middle of my college. I finished 2 years in Kazakhstan and got a grant to study 1 year in college in the US. And then my college invited me to stay and offered full scholarship. And I finished Hartwick College with 2 degrees. And my professors were amazing people who literally fundraised to buy me tickets to apply to a PhD program and pushed me to do so. I was kicking and screaming.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful story. I was this arrogant maximalist, like this teenage arrogance was going through me, and I didn't want to apply, and they really, really changed my life. And on my 20th anniversary of arriving at Hartwick College, I was the graduation speaker in 2018.
Oh, what an honor. And I think a lot of people, especially girls from Kazakhstan, can relate to these stories. I know, like, you know, about maybe 20 or so people who have a very similar story of, you know, winning a scholarship, having an opportunity to get to study at a really amazing places. And they always go back and think, oh yeah, when I went to school, like elementary or middle school or anything, they were really active in the social life of the school and doing all these interesting projects, which were not called projects, but they were very active. So I wanted to just ask you, the Young Leaders group, is that like a pioneers?
No,
It was something else completely?
Yeah, this association was born in '92 after the collapse. It was a partnership between California Association of Student Councils, CASC, and at that point, a very famous nuclear physicist, academic Velikov, who wanted to create a nonprofit. It's called Association of Young Leaders. It's still alive today. It's active and it's doing amazing work teaching basic leadership skills to kids age 13 to 20 or something like that, and giving them really basic strategic planning, public speaking. And so any skill that helps you manage yourself and be successful in working with others.
Right. I think it is a really great topic, because I was thinking that in many public schools, they teach a lot of academic and science, but no one teaches you soft skills like leadership, public speaking, etc. And then you kind of get it from different places.
I think it has to be a requirement. And we actually have a first experiment in college setting where we taught every single incoming freshman basic reinvention skills. And we have a request from here. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and there is a Columbus City School district called Westerville District, which has 25 schools in them. And the superintendent asked me if I have a program to test at a middle school level. So the moment the kid goes from elementary to middle is the first big disruption in their life. So if we can teach reinvention skills at that age, they will be serving them their entire life. They will be adaptive, they will be resilient, they will be creative, and they will be very, very comfortable with change.
Right. I think it's very true because I also got a scholarship to study in the US after my first year in college. And my degree was in management and business. But I chose computer science so I can try it and not commit the full 4 years. So when I went there, because I was the only person from Kazakhstan in my college, I sort of became this ambassador and a public speaker and this expert on the whole region of the former Soviet Union. And I think it really taught me by just doing things, how to make a presentation, how to organize a get together or fundraiser for a country. So these are all the things that kids can learn by doing. And I think the next question is very interesting for me because I'm also a working parent. For you with your husband to open one business together, no one teaches you, how to be a parent and be able to open your own business. And I want to ask you about the challenges you overcame and what kind of advice do you have for anyone working together with a spouse and also being able to devote time for your family?
So my husband and I own and run the business, and we have a 16-year-old daughter. And I salute anyone who has more than one child, because one child is a lot of work. And then I see my beautiful friends with 2, 3, or 5, and I'm just, God bless you. So in my case, what kind of challenges we had? We made a lot of mistakes. So early on, we underestimated the power of legal advice. We would never pay for legal advice. And we were robbed. First big revenue we ever made, first $500,000 we made, got stolen through a bad business deal. And the person is still hiding in China, and that's been 8 years. So the first thing we learned is go hire professionals. It will end up cheaper in the run, in the long run, hire professionals. The second thing that we learned, and I teach it also in Reinvention courses, the whole biology of stress and stress management. You need to understand how chemistry works. It's not just your thoughts, it's also your chemicals. For example, whenever we have met with stress event, let's say you got a bad call from a client, something is happening horrific, or you disagree with your partner, that's a stress event. You literally have an uncontrollable 90-second plus period where the adrenaline is released, and you cannot stop this. You can pretend you're not feeling it, but you cannot stop this moment. We call it a 90-second rule, that everyone deserves to be super angry and a little bit crazy for at least 90 seconds. And even our daughter knows this rule. It comes from biology and neuroscience. But it's very simple. The first 90 seconds, you have no control. Your body is preparing to defend itself against a lion or a bear, or run away from a lion or a bear. It's called fight or flight syndrome. You have no ability to stop it. You think you control it. You do not control a thing. It's a completely automatic response. So when my daughter comes from school, she's now in hybrid school because of COVID. And she comes from school, she goes to school on Mondays and Thursdays, and she's having a bad day, and she enters, and I start brainstorming solutions. She's like, Mom, give me my 90 seconds. Give me my 90 seconds to be angry. Don't fix me yet. I need to go through the chemical response. So we had to learn through a few fights and a couple of intense moments and bad mistakes, how to adjust also the biology of stress management. And finally, I think it's crucial to know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. It took us a while to name it to tame it, right? So there's a famous word, you name it to tame it. You're feeling something, you name it, that feeling is no longer controlling you. Whether it's happy, angry, surprised, depressed, whatever it is, the moment you name what you feel, your actual blood supply and the neural activity moves into a different part of the brain, into frontal cortex. You no longer are dependent on your emotions. So a lot of learnings and a lot of mistakes still to make, I'm sure.
I know. And I think that for you, at least your daughter is grown up to the point where the challenges are more on a mental level
Mm.
rather than just finding the right babysitter or finding the right school, especially during COVID. A lot of working moms are struggling with trying to do work from home together with the child that's going through online education as well. But this is even before COVID happened.
Mhm.
Uh, what kind of advice or what kind of issues actually do you see and how we can address them for women in general in advancing their careers? Um,
I saw a remarkable statistic that something like one third of all working mothers are considering or actively taking steps to quit their jobs right now because the idea of combining work while taking care of your child is unbearable. There are a number of really wonderful interviews that recently were made where mothers are showing how they were successful business participants, whether managers, whether frontline employees or top managers, and then they have a 1 year old baby who before COVID-19 was taken care of by a daycare or by a nanny and no longer is allowed in different states. It was prohibited for a while. You cannot have a 1 year old baby and be an executive. Let's not joke about it. Let's not pretend we can lean in into it. No, no, no. Let's not pretend this is possible. This is possible at the expense of severe damage to a woman's health. I mean, taking decades of woman's life, creating conditions for chronic disease, or actually creating an adrenaline response all the way to stroke or heart disease. Heart attack is a number one killer of women, much higher than cancer, and we still pretend that this is a men's disease. So for me, the number one thing is, of course, I'm very sad that at least in this country, not enough is done to support women in this particular circumstance, because every statistic shows that in the middle of COVID-19, women are disproportionately affected and are carrying much greater load of responsibilities of responding to the epidemic. Since we are not getting help, I think we should organize and help as much as we can. So what we've done with my network, we've made an active effort to promote women businesses, to share, if we have an option, to share always a female-owned product or female-owned lead, to promote female authors, to do female events more often. I have an event coming up this week. Almost every call I had today is with women because there is a need to promote ourselves better, be more vocal about what we do, and find alternative sources of income so we are not dependent on somebody dictating to us of what we can and cannot do.
yes, thank you so much. I think the reinvention is very close to the hearts of women because they have to do it so often in their lives, in their personal lives. And especially because in this country, in the US, you don't have an option of having a maternity leave, even for 6 months. I don't think it's possible. The longest is 4 months in some companies. Then you're forced to be in this very ineffective, unproductive time at work where you can't perform your best, or you're forced to be quitting and then reinventing yourself and coming back to the market, or reevaluating your priorities and maybe starting a business instead where your company can be more women friendly. And it is very interesting to see if at least women-owned companies could give some benefits to women employees. And that's what I'm always trying to talk about during the conversations I have with women speakers on this podcast. Because a lot of business owners are struggling for money too, and they don't have the advantage of being able to pay someone extra for the whole year, let's say, or at least 6 months, right? However, in my opinion, the loyalty of the employee, if you can get that, is so much more valuable in the long run.
Mhm. I
Um,
also think we have a lot of power as voters. The reason why this country is the only industrialist country that doesn't have real protection around childcare, it's in most cases it's a 6 weeks paid and up to 4 months unpaid. This is unheard of in any other developed world. This is a policy beyond belief. It's not even a developing world policy. And it's a policy that does a lot of bad. We have research after research that shows that it's women in the workforce and also women as a leaders of their family educating their kids that make a huge difference. So I think there's options we can do as voters. I think there are options we can do as business owners. In my case, the way we solve this problem is we made a decision early on that we will not be the kind of company that builds a huge payroll. We want to have ownership at every level. So anyone who comes to work with us, we actually train them how to open their own small business. What is the benefits of incorporation? How much tax benefits you get? And every single person, including the 20-year-olds who come to work with us, are our subcontractors who own their own businesses. And suddenly you see them starting new branches and the new directions. And I cheer everyone on. I have a head of digital products who is leaving us in a few weeks because she's starting a bigger part of her own business and wellness. And I'm like, I want to see you succeed. This is what should be happening. We should all know the benefits of incorporation. We should all understand the way financial system benefits and favors business owners, and the taxation system does. So let's train them and not be employees to each other. Let's be partners.
all right, that's a really amazing thought. And it comes back to your Chief Reinvention Officer program and
Yeah,
certification. Can
yeah,
you tell us how much investment of time and money it is?
sure.
And we can also share about your book that just came out.
Absolutely. So we have different layers and different levels. I invite everyone to start on the path of reinvention with zero investment, which is go to our website and download the 85-page preview of my new book. The book, I literally just got it in the mail this morning. It will be out on October 27th. It's called The Chief Reinvention Officer Handbook, How to Thrive in Chaos. And as you can see, it's a very pragmatic book. So it has a lot of illustrations. And for all of you business owners, it has a special perforated cards insert with 25 business model cards that you tear out of the book and go work with immediately. So you can get the 85-page free preview now with zero investment and get a taste. Is this something that works for you? Is it something that smells like you? Do you like this book? And then, of course, you're welcome to purchase it. It's available on Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and tons of other places. Then we have a foundational course in Reinvention. It's a 4-week course that has 17 lessons, 17 worksheets, and it goes through why, what, how, and so what of reinvention, and it gives you tools. So essentially at this point, you are able to do reinvention inside your own life and business without anyone's help. And there's a very vibrant community of a few thousand people who support you. So you post a question, they tell you what they've done. You ask for a reference, they suggest a reference for you. That course is $597. And the certificate program is, first of all, you are required to take a foundational course for the certificate program. The certificate program is a much more intense endeavor. It's 7 weeks of study plus at least 5 weeks of doing your own project of reinvention. You get personal coaching, you get a lot of support, and people who come out become very skilled in selling reinvention as an offer, whether it's a teaching offer, consulting offer, or some other products that you can come out and monetize it immediately. And that program, if you buy it separate, so if you already did the first level, it's I think 1,500 or 1,497, and then if you can combine it, both courses simultaneously is 1,997. I think that's the investment. So you can start very, very affordably free. You can start then with a book, and then you can go with more of a significant investment and really find a way to monetize it rather quickly.
All right. And I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of consultants that are already in the business of reinvention. But adding that extra step, extra certification, and a methodology that's been developed and has been already proven that a lot of companies buy it and they do it, implement it, and they're happy with it. So I think that's a really good value there. Thank you so much, Nadya.
Absolutely.
And if you have, uh, 30 seconds to say something that is really important to business owners as an advice, what would you say?
Oh, it's very simple. We don't have a choice. Either we change or life changes us, and it won't be pretty. We don't have a luxury to pretend that the world is stable and predictable the way it was for most of 20th century. Today, in this day of age, we have to reinvent or we will be reinvented out of this business. So I invite you to be proactive. I invite you to make change your friend. And I invite you to start looking at chaos as an opportunity, not a monster to run away from. We can ride the waves of change. We don't need to be crushed by them.
Oh, beautiful. That's exactly what people need in this chaotic times with a pandemic and a lot of uncertainty, to be frank, in lots of different areas of our lives these days. Thank you so much, Nadia, for your time. We had a real great, honest conversation, and we look forward to seeing more chief reinvention officers out there in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.